Hey, Matt, Greg, we're live with Materials Exchange. This is I don't know how many episodes. Cheers, boys, of this week in lumber. Matt with Hampton Lumber Sales, Greg with Sitka USA. Uh, I think this week in lumber, we want to talk about a few things. Hey, some feedback, you guys. Been getting a lot of calls from people. Matt, a couple of buddies called that saw last week's. And then yesterday we had a futures. We're having Tuesday. We had a futures call with Greg Kuda yesterday. Talked about the futures contract, but I got to tell you, everybody loves the show. New guy, Rich from Kansas City, a new user. He's watching. Rich, shout out to you. He just got on the platform yesterday. Big trust facility down there. Glad to have you on. But people are getting a lot of good information out of what we're given. And honestly, guys, I think it's this isn't, I've heard stuff from people sitting on trading floors. They have some of their traders watch it, right? Because I think that's, I don't know if we're helping them or hurting them, but I mean, I think it's
so now you're talking about really the blind leading the blind.
Yeah,
okay.
Right.
Yeah, no doubt.
They're probably just fading us.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, let's listen to these guys, and then we'll go George Costanza on them.
So just a real quick plug. This live show is sponsored by Materials Exchange. You can see it in the background. This is not fake. This is a real background here.
So I got a little critiquing last week, and one was my wife's like, "Oh, who has the lumber as the background?" I went, "We all do."
Yeah, no, I got some critiquing too. The guy said our sound sounded really good, but our lighting and our video was horrible. I'm like, well, we're in the lumber business, not the. So I basically plugged live in, so I'm not streaming this over a Wi-Fi now. I'm going plug directly into the wall, so to speak. I know that's not the correct technical term, but.
You're wired, baby. You're Ethernet Cat 5, Cat 6.
I'm wired. So let's so again, Materials Exchange, mxlumber.com. I know we're picking up a lot of users from this platform. We're the digital way to buy and sell lumber. Chris just got on from Hong Kong. Everybody, please say over in the comment section, and as Greg said, the Eli and Peyton comment section. Did you see him throw Joe Buck under the on Monday night?
I didn't see it this Monday. I was out at a charity golf event, so I missed it. But
Peyton Manning said something during the game about how it's so nice to have somebody with knowledge of different
instead of Joe Buck
coverages. instead of Joe Buck, and Eli was just like.
Well, I mean,
the caption on YouTube was Peyton Manning erases Joe Buck or ends his career.
Destroys his career.
Nick from Sheboygan. Hey, Sheboygan. What's up, Nick from Sheboygan? George, Chicago. Chris is always signing in from Hong Kong. That's wonderful. So anybody else, we'll let everybody kind of stream in here. So Matt, we had somebody fill in for you last week, Matt, but we are glad to have you back.
Who was my replacement? I'm curious.
A guy named Charles De La Torre. He's down in South Carolina. He's got industrial forest products.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he came on last week, Matt, and got himself his own show.
Really?
Immediately got his own show.
He's a star.
I'm like, yeah. I mean, you're really starting to get a lineup, Ash. I mean, you'll have to start publishing the TV guide for MX Network now that,
right.
What are you up to, like 5-6 shows now a week?
We've got about 5 shows. Hopefully get them up to but my vision is to have this is a full network of shows going, kind of like Tasty Trade does, right? And that's kind of my vision of how I would like it to look. So and really the purpose would be to help educate the industry, show them a little bit more. Like yesterday we did a good futures show, and everybody called and said, hey, do more of those, because a lot of people don't know what's going on in futures and lumber. And that was kind of cool. So let's talk a little bit about the market, Greg. What's kind of changed since last week? Last week we were running up, continued to run up into the end of the week. The basis was still out there. Basis came a little bit back in. as I'm walking around talking to customers and visiting them, the big chain people tell me that they're still liquidating inventory and have 90 days of inventory, but they told me the same thing 3 weeks ago, that they had 90 days of inventory, right? The smaller people say they're buying some stuff but have adequate. So I'm hearing mixed bags of stuff. People in the middle that bought secondaries, that bought a whole bunch of wood on this last move down and restocked the shelves, keep telling me that everybody's running out of wood and people should buy wood. So what's your synopsis over the last 7 days since we talked last?
I guess I say there's a little bit of everything that that you said, and I think that's part of what is the characteristic in the market right now. Is there's a lot of competing competing factions, competing agendas, competing positions. Yes, there are some people that have liquidated their inventory sufficiently, need to be buying on a day in, day out basis. Yes, there are some people that still have some inventory liquidation to go, and maybe another 30 days out before they get back in balance. We got midweek print was up pretty much across the board. We're up now for, realistically, say the market bottomed almost 4 weeks ago. Depending on the item, you may be up $50, you may be up $150 off the low, and that's after falling 80% in 13 weeks. So there's you mentioned the basis, and we can talk a little bit about that. I mean, the basis has held out at what historically is astronomical numbers. It's in today. It's only about $90 today. Matt, you and I mean, we used to look at basis $30-$40 was a lot.
Oh man, 90 sucks. There's no way I'm going to do 90. You better go back out to 150. What's this 90 BS? I'm not doing 90.
Oh, that's insane. Now that's just not. Think about that. That's just 90 on like to like. But then you start looking at some of the other stuff.
Undervalued items, yeah.
Yeah, undervalued items. It's really out there. But with that said, then there's certain items like the low grade items that are probably pretty tight to the on grade items, right?
Low grade is running into on grade, especially in green lumber. Not so much in dry. I mean, there is a spread between, say, dry utility, dry number 3, and standard better 2 and better type numbers. But on green, yeah, that spread between utility and standard better is like $10. It's really close.
I think pine's doing the same thing, because we have a lot of people looking for pine 16s, let's say, and the 2 and better is darn near just as close as some of the number 3, right?
Right.
But then you go to 2x6 in pine, and it's got one of the best bases you've seen in a long time. What's going on, Matt, on the western spruce side?
2x6, just 2x6 dry lumber period can't get out of its own way. It's not enjoying the rally like, say, studs are, or 2x4 random is. It's even wides are doing better than 2x6 in general. So what's going on in the Western U.S. and Western Canada? I would say that the mills have built themselves solid order files. This is how I described it today in our company conference call, when they asked me to give my little synopsis of how I'm seeing the things in the world. The mills that I deal with have decent order files. They're happy with the market. They seem to be selling enough lumber every day and every week to continue to be happy and content with business. They're nudging prices here and there, but for the most part, it's a very orderly market in terms of me buying lumber and what my mills are telling me and the feedback I'm getting from them. On the flip side, the retail business, the truck business out of Reload, the rail car business that I'm seeing, the inquiry for new stuff that my customers are starting to send my way is increasing. Honestly, it's actually, in the last 5 working days, my volume of business and my volume of inquiry is steadily risen. So I don't know, I'm not going to sit here and guess what the market's going to be in 30 or 45 days, but as far as demand goes, at my desk, demand is very good. It's not quite as good and frenzied as it was back in, say, March, April, May, but I don't want it to be, right? I want it to be relatively orderly, and I like the market right now. And this is really just a continuation of the thing that I've been talking about for 4 weeks, which is a return to normal.
Yeah,
This is a normal market, and it feels normal, it's acting normal, and the one thing that's not normal is transportation issues. Okay. So if we want to talk about that, you have ports that are all backed up. You've got trucking lanes that are almost impossible to book that you might have used to been able to get trucks to fairly easily. You've got Christmas tree season in front of us. You've got, the nut harvesting season going on right now. You've got the last of the hay season. Well, like in California, dude, they're harvesting walnuts and acorns and stuff like that. So I don't know. I don't know about the rest of the country, but trucking and freight in general, even the railroads are hit and miss right now. So I'm not sure what that does to the market. I really, if it was
Matt,
springtime, I'd be a lot more nervous, but it's going into winter. So
yeah, but I mean, Matt, I can tell, it's been really, over the last, I'm going to say 2 to 3 weeks, it just continues to get tighter and tighter. I mean, and, I'm seeing as big a backup on loads and lanes as, you get ever.
What are the main, I know everything's busy. What are the main lanes that are really tough? I mean, Matt, like you always talk about how bad the ports are just going out of them. What are you guys finding it everywhere where things are tight?
The ports, from my standpoint, the ports that I deal with, it's more a question. That's more a question of just the sheer volume that's flowing through that's causing the issue. It's not as much of the availability, and because of the volume, we're having to pay more. Some of the more traditional north-south lanes that I work on, it's availability at any price. To Matt's point, there's some lanes that I used to be able to be really reliable on, and now I'm, I'm paying 50 to 100% more to get rush loads out.
Yeah, and you might not even find a truck for 3 weeks, right?
Yeah, I'm quoting 3-week shipment for on the ground stock right now.
Right. So the way I characterize it, Ashley, is the stuff that I'm historically good at. So the local business, moving it within a 300-mile radius. It's a little slower. It's a little bit more like you gotta dot your I's and cross your T's to promise a date of delivery, right? So like if a guy calls you on Monday and says, "Hey, can you get it here by Friday?" In the old days, I'd just say, "Yeah, no problem," right? Because no big deal. Today, I'm like, well, let me check first, so I'll check with my truck dispatcher before I say yes. That's not a big change. I mean, that happens throughout the year from time to time. That's normal. It's anything outside of that 300-mile radius. And we do this all the time. I mean, I ship product from Houston to Phoenix. I ship product from Houston to Arkansas, Oklahoma, Mississippi, Alabama, New Mexico, Colorado. I mean, if the people need it bad enough, it'll go, right?
Right.
And those hauls are virtually impossible for me to get a truck on. And then when I do find a truck, I'm paying 50 to 100% more than what I used to, a year ago, 2 years ago. It's just weird, and I know that our West Coast, Hampton has a whole bunch of sawmill production in Oregon and Washington, and it flows south, right? It goes down the I-5 corridor, up and down, and those lanes are going up. I mean, those prices right now are up like 40% since July.
Yeah.
And I imagine those prices are going to stay up for a while, because we're going into Christmas tree season. So that's another one that sort of hinks up the West Coast. But every region has its own problems. The bottom line is transportation is being negatively affected by COVID, people working at home, people retiring, government regulation. I don't know what the hell the whole story is because I'm not in the trucking business, but I can tell you it is bad. And it's not just in one place, it's all over the country.
Yeah, I got you. Before you got on, Greg and I were talking too about some other things that well, I guess I'm kind of going off here a little bit. Cost of production. Big significant difference between Alberta and BC. Obviously, the South is a little different. There are some costs that are going up just because of inflation and transportation and all that. But um, are these guys going to get back in the bush now? I mean, is fire season kind of getting close to an end now? I heard there was some good rain up in the BC area and all that over the last. We're kind of getting into that fall season.
It's
Anything?
over.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's completely over. I mean, we've had two big bouts of rainfall in the West Coast here in the last 2 weeks, and I mean, technically there's still fire danger, but in reality, it's over. I mean, we're much cooler temperatures now. It's like in the 60s today is the high, and it's cooling down into the 40s and 30s at night. So the ground is wet outside, the lawns are growing green again. I mean, you can just tell the seasons have changed, and now we're into fall, buddy. So it's the
Is
the
that
odds of a fire exploding out of nowhere right now up and down the West Coast is effectively zero.
is that the same up in Canada? Do you think so far?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. I
So
think the one area that there still might be some latent fire danger would be California, just because they typically don't get their rain until like December, February, January, that time frame. That's when their flooding comes, but it's still dry down there.
yeah, that's so now the mills can get into the woods and build a big log deck for the winter and top off that log deck, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah, gotcha. So question down below, and Greg, maybe you can embed. How about European volume in the market right now? I mean, I can speak for what I hear. I've had two people that I have never talked to in a long time call me yesterday wanting to put European volume on the market that haven't had it come over here before from new people that want to come over here, which is strange to me. I didn't think I would hear that, but it sounds like there's still wood coming over here. Greg, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any slowdown in the volume at this point in time. We're at price levels that historically have been acceptable levels for European producers, and you would need to see, you would need to see, probably 60 to 90 days of, prices well below $500 FOB East Coast and Gulf Coast ports to see a significant slowing. Matt, do you agree with that?
I don't know what you're seeing over there. I think there's less product going through Houston. And I noticed that in the last 30 days that I never dropped my prices to the panic levels that people did. And now I'm just getting my price, right? So whoever wanted to dump wood 30 days ago, they've accomplished that task, and now they've raised their prices up to where I was all along, and I'm getting new business at higher levels now. So I like that. That's a good sign. That was exactly what I was hoping would happen. I don't. I mean, with the problems that we're having in the ports, I can't see, like Ashley's point. I'm a little surprised that there's some new people in the European lumber thing that would be wanting to bring stuff over here all of a sudden. Like that's a good idea. I mean, I
Yeah,
can see a number of
I don't know
reasons
how they
that
get.
would
How I don't know
fail.
I don't know how somebody new is going to get any vessel space.
Exactly.
that's
So I don't, that's the
look.
part I don't really understand. Like how are you going to do that? Because it's bad enough just getting product in as it is right now.
Hey, I'm not complaining. If we get it on the platform, I'm good with it. Whatever they do, if they load it on the frickin' in the cafeteria on the ship, I'm fine.
Sell it by the piece.
Hey Ash, before we let's just wrap up and maybe talk a little bit about talk some more about the basis and
Well, basis that I wanted to talk about that you said something about the Case Shiller index too.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, reminding me. So, so I said Case Shiller home prices, Case Shiller home price index is up 19.6% from a year ago. To say that that's an unsustainable price increase is kind of the understatement. And then I came across something that I thought was, making me go asking myself, hey, self, so there's currently 1.5 million borrowers that are in the, government came out, along with all these COVID things that like seemed like really good ideas initially, but now they've been dragged on and make no sense whatsoever. At one point there was 7.2 million people that had their mortgages in forbearance. Right now there's 1.5 million, and that ends tomorrow. So
does that mean that the government said they could just not pay their mortgage during the pandemic?
Right. It was in forbearance. So that forbearance ends effectively tomorrow, which means like I don't know what it means exactly in terms of how that's going to play off. Obviously, with the price increase, almost anybody that was in forbearance has built equity in their home, right? Yeah. So, the incentive is going to be to get things worked out with the lenders. I guess my point is there may be in some markets additional supply come on the market of existing homes over the next 3 to 6 months. And it's like something to watch. The other thing that I'm watching obviously is, we've seen the uptick in interest rates. I mean, you and I can look at it and go, wow, they're still dirt cheap, but everything's relative. And, if you go from 2.75 to 3.75, that's a big percentage increase. And when you put that on top of, the increase in prices, it's kind of like one of those things where we always need, Matt, your when you were talking about recency.
Yeah.
So, what I'm always trying to look at is, okay, recency, what is out there that's going to change from what has been? Because everybody kind of just accepts the status quo as it's going to continue forever, but things are always going to change. So what is out there? Where are the icebergs?
Well, there's lots of them. Consumer sentiment's negative all of a sudden. It's like you saw that yesterday, the day before that came out. It's a big red flag. Inflation is a big problem. The price of homes, interest rates are now going to creep up. What
natural gas.
What's going on? What's going on with our country as a whole, right? I mean, politically, there's problems. There's a lot of unknown variables out there right now. So, am I going to go out and invest a whole bunch of money and buy a bunch of spec homes for rental properties? No, I would think that'd be really foolish to do right now, to tell you the truth. Things like that. So eventually people take their money and they either park it somewhere or they spend it somewhere or they invest it somewhere, right? And right now, I think there's probably a sizable group of people that are wondering whether they should stop spending their money so quickly and start saving more of it because of fear of the unknown future. That's what happens in our country. This is how recessions start, right? And people lose confidence in the government. They lose confidence in the future, and they start withholding their money from the market. So that'll be interesting to see how this plays out. I'm not saying that we're going into recession at all, but I can see red flags for sure. Absolutely.
And cryptocurrencies are off. And I mean, because that was supposed to make the whole new generation billionaires overnight, wasn't it? With cryptos. And look at NASDAQ and all that was taken a little bit today. So we all just feel everything is going to continue along the same path until it doesn't. But, things still look pretty decent. Kyle had a good one up. Kyle Little, existing home inventory should increase substantially with foreclosed inventory and a high price structure. I guess that was more of a question / comment, but then he put, someone always told me that they are all for sale at the right price. Yeah, that's so true. That is so true.
Where you can see absolute proof of that statement? Vancouver, BC.
Yeah.
You remember what happened over the last 10 years when people were just coming in and, they'd pay $3 million and then tear down a house. And
yeah.
Like, whoa. Crazy.
Or pay $3 million and have their kid go to college and be the only one living there in his brand new multicolored Lamborghini.
It was so bad that the government changed the tax laws on these homes, and they started putting like a 15% stipend on new home sales.
Vancouver's one of those. You bought your house for $300,000 10 years ago. Now it's worth $3 million.
Yeah,
There's like people retiring from the lumber industry. It's like, I bought a house in Vancouver 10 years ago. I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. Yeah. Well, hey, Greg, you were also going to talk about basis real quick, because I think it's important, because it's like a festering thumb right now. How glaring it is, right?
I mean, and it's been this way now. We had this situation really from middle August, when the market bottomed out. Actually, first week in August, we started to build the premium, and it got pretty large. Until it came in really the first week in September, and it came in with cash moving up to the futures. And the real question is, as you sit here with November at $615 and today's print of 522, are we going to see something similar to that as we move forward? And I think clearly the futures, being the big premium, continues to support, give comfort to underlying cash market. I do not think that there are very many people buying cash product and selling the board. I think that most of the people that do that, have done it, and they have, quote unquote, enough of that, and everyone else looks at it but doesn't do it.
Well, yeah, because think about it. I mean, so you're at 1,755 open interest today, right? As of close last night. Like you said, Greg, I mean, as these companies have consolidated over the years, and I know we're getting up against our time here, you put basis on a month ago, it looked great, right? But all of a sudden, your person at a company that doesn't know enough about basis is calling saying, hey, you've got a margin call. Yeah, but I've got this much potential in it. I don't care. You can't do that anymore. So the trader in you says, well, it's even better now. I want to put more on, right? But like, you can't do that, right? Because Bill back at accounting doesn't like writing checks. He wants you to be able to make money on the futures and the cash.
Yeah.
And you're not doing that.
Conversely, I look at it as to say, like, what would happen if November broke its trend line and sold off down to low 500s? What would that do to the market psychology in the cash market?
That's never going to happen. Somebody told me that yesterday. Never. It's a new normal. That will never happen.
Yeah,
you're talking crazy talk here, because then you're $200 below the cost of production, Greg.
Well, it was interesting. I put out the chart on LinkedIn on
Ashley,
Saturday.
what are you on, buddy? I mean, did your doctor give you a new prescription? What's going on?
Hibiscus LaCroix.
Oh my goodness.
No, but Ash, it was interesting. I don't know if you saw that on the chart that I put out on Saturday or Sunday, whenever it was over the weekend, where I kind of did some technical analysis, and I've had a couple people, I guess I'd say, comment on my technical analysis. But it was all, I put something out saying, hey, we're coiling to move to either 450 or 800, and pretty much the response was universal. Was the only place it can go to is 800. 450 is not an option.
Yeah, and I was kind of joking, but I even don't think it can go down there. Which I mean, I saw you had the wedge or the triangle in there. I had to take a look at that. Yeah, I saw what you
was a wedge.
What you were talking about.
You don't think we could go to 450?
I said yes. I said
I think we could in a heartbeat. Honestly,
absolutely.
I don't think that would even be out of. We're at 522 right now. 450 is only $72 away. I mean, that's no big deal.
Right, but it's 100. But it's 100.
250. I'd say, yeah, maybe
it's
not.
$160 below November.
Yeah.
November doesn't matter though. I mean, so you want to talk
matters
about
to me.
You want to talk about futures having irrational relationships. Futures was $200 cheaper than the cash market on the way down, right?
Right.
So now it's 100, 150 above it on the way back up. These are just the relationships that we're getting now because we only have 1,700 open interest.
Yeah,
There's not enough information. there's just not enough information to be gleaned from futures anymore, right? When it was 8,000 open interest and we had pit traders that could actually, you know, influence the close and the settlements, and you could, you know, you had to work the business. And I knew a lot of the people that were in the business, you know, like, I won't name names, but we all know who the major players have been over the years.
Yeah.
A lot of those major players aren't even in the business anymore. They've retired or they've passed away, you know, or they quit and they went on to something else.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're stuck at 1,700 open interest. It's a joke. Don't even get me started on that.
I'm back.
So you want to make your whole business decisions based on 1/5 of the information that you used to have access to? Go for it, buddy. You're an idiot.
It's always the same
what are
for
you
me,
on,
Matt. Is you know, futures doesn't tell you anything other than where you can manage risk, and
Exactly.
gives hedgers and basis traders an opportunity. That's all there is to
right
it.
Now you have a $90 spread, and if you're a basis trader, you're looking at that all day long, licking your chops. And it takes one day. It takes one day to eradicate $100 worth of futures value, right? You get a $42 limit, and then you get a 63. That's $105. You can get that in a 24-hour period.
Hey,
so
Ash,
when do we couldn't come off 90 in 2 days, right?
Yeah.
Ash, when do the limits reset?
Greg went over that yesterday. I'll have to look at that because they do it every 6 months, right? And with the look back. So
I think it's coming up.
It is coming up.
And they're gonna be reduced substantially. Good. The limits.
Yeah. That makes. I don't know the answer to that. We'll find it. I'll find it out for you. So I mean, 1,755. If open interest drops below 1,000, is the party over on this thing or what?
Who knows? It's sad that they've let it get this bad. They should have made some adjustments to the contract to attract more volume.
Well, they are. So we had that call. Yeah. So Greg mentioned the point yesterday. CUDA, they're going to make Eastern deliverable and look at some other things to try to bolster it going forward. Is from what he said. We'll have to find it up. But I know the alarms must be going off for him to look at it because that's 1,755. In the volatility that we're in right now, I would think it should be higher than that.
Yeah, I mean, it's
all right. Hey, listen, guys, we ran a little over. It's been great, but I got a 1 o'clock. I got to roll.
All right, gentlemen, I appreciate it. We'll look forward to it next week.
Thanks, guys.
Right. Thanks, guys.